And with us on the line to talk about his race at Washougal and more, brought to you by Renthal, it's Chase Sexton. What's up, Chase? How are you, man?
I'm good, boys. How are you guys doing?
Do you have a take on Darkside saying that it was your fault in Atlanta? Like,
I was listening to that. I was like, it wasn't like it was just a racing incident. I wouldn't say it was either of us' fault.
Well,
it was kind of like I didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't even know I was there.
You share some blame in the incident. It's not 100% Kay Clayson's fault, but
you know what?
But I'm not going with like it's your fault.
I was trying to just
we actually came together at Unadilla when I crashed on the start. I think, was that Kay? Did we come together last year at Unadilla, me and you?
That was first lap. But you had already crashed, and you were coming back through the pack, and then we crashed again. And I remember getting up and being like, again, really? Like it had to be me.
It was I came in like really hot, and he obviously didn't know I was there, and I was like, I pretty much just took us both out, and that one was on me. But the other one, I was like, it was just a race.
Yeah. So. Well, you can say, you just can't say like Darkside just said that's Chase's fault.
I was trying to give Kate a little.
Listen, you didn't know Chase was on the line.
Well, no, I did not. That is true.
It's all right. Everyone has their own opinion. I actually forgot about that until I heard him talk about it.
Well, I was having a mental breakdown the end of first moto this weekend, because when you and Eli crashed, I was right in front of you guys about to get lapped. Like I went around the outside to let you guys go by, and I'm like, oh, they're still a little bit behind me. I'm going to go, and they'll come by me on these jumps. And I go over the turning wall, or the turning little single thing, and I look back, and you guys are gone. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, where did they go? Like, did I really just cause them to crash again? And I was literally mentally mind-effed the whole next lap because I thought I made you guys crash. And I went up to Duff, Craig's mechanic, on the line. I'm like, dude, did I do something to make Eli crash? Like, what happened? He's like, no, it wasn't your fault this time.
Oh, I was like, thanks, Duff.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, thanks, Duff. Chase Sexton on the line, brought to you by Renthal. Chase, you told me after the race this was your best outdoor win ever. And, I think I kind of agree, man. That was damn impressive. Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably my best race win ever, like Supercross, motocross. It was a grind. I mean, it was pretty much both motos. Eli and I were like inseparable. So, it was gnarly. And then to add Millville on top of it, it was just like 4 motos of just pretty much, or maybe 3.5 because I fell in the first moto at Millville. But it was gnarly. Second moto, I just kept telling myself another lap. Just got to I got to keep him behind me because he kept trying to, like, he would kind of like hang back and then he'd sprint and try and get me really fast, which is obviously what you're supposed to do. So I just kind of had to be on defense a little bit when those attacks came. But
he about 5 minutes to go, he sent it for like a lap and a half behind you. Oh, he was going, and then
it was.
Go ahead.
Third to last lap, I looked on the lap chart. I looked and I ran a 2:12 and he ran a 2:13, and I think that was kind of the point where it was kind of turned towards in my favor. And then 2 laps to go, I saw the 2-lap board came out, and I sprinted for like half a lap and then realized that he wasn't right behind me. So then from there on, I kind of just took it a little bit easy, but it was a gnarly race. His bike is not quiet.
No.
Even if he's not right behind me, it feels like he's right behind me. So it's hard to kind of decipher where he's actually at.
Everyone tells me that, like, if it's the combination of the Yamaha and then Eli being wide open, you always know where he is. Always, know. So, you got to hold that guy off for a while. Cade was talking about the shadows this weekend. Cade had never raced the motos at Washougal before, and the shadows, Cade, was really jacking you up, which I've heard from a bunch of riders. But, Chase, for you, how do you adapt to that? Or does it bug you?
I saw his tweet saying he's going to run a headlight next year. No, it's actually – so for me, growing up, I raced a lot of night races, and they weren't the best, like, lit tracks out there. So, like, I don't know if it's that I've kind of just grown up riding something that hasn't been lit very well, but Washougal's never really bothered me with just the shadows. I mean, obviously there is bad shadows and with the bumps there, but I don't know. It doesn't ever really, like, when I go race Washougal, I'm not worried about the shadows kind of thing. Like, it's more like the dirt and how it can turn from really tacky to like super slick. So I don't know. People were saying, like, especially this year, it seemed like, I think it went from like overcast in the morning where like the shadows weren't really a problem, and then it got sunny, so then it just was like totally opposite. I don't know. It was.
Yeah.
I never really dealt with it, but I did see Kate's tweet about the headlight thing.
I had some riders run the yellow like gun range lenses.
Yeah.
Over the years there. I don't know if it helps, but yeah.
Well,
They do help. I actually really like those.
Oh, okay.
I used to run them in at the night race, and even blue was good too. They had like a solid blue one that was really nice.
Well, I always go over and watch the first 250 moto at the Honda truck before we all get dressed. And I was standing there talking to your dad, and he's like asking my opinion on lenses, and I'm like, man, all I got's clear. So, like, I don't know what to tell you. What did you end up running?
I just ran clear.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't try and mess with like the goggle thing, because at the end of the day, it's not going to really lose. It's not going to win or lose me the race. It's going to be very minimal, I think. So, I just stick with clear because that's what I know, and I really only run. I think I've only ran tint maybe 1 or 2 times this summer. So, yeah, mostly just clear all the time.
702-586-7857. You got a question for Chase Sexton on the line here. We got a few people waiting on hold as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chase, I was talking about the mental side of you having the issues you've had over the last couple of years, and you've talked about that on this show multiple times. Do you feel like you've made a mental shift where you don't even think about those things anymore? You feel like you've gotten past it? I mean, I know like at Millville you did have the one crash, but I don't feel like it's been as consistently happening. Do you feel like there's been a change?
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, like a lot of my crashes, even in Supercross, like the Minneapolis one was not, I still, to this day, don't, like those are just really weird crashes. Like, I came out of the corner, I actually hit the turn better than I had hit it all night, and I'm still kind of in shock of what happened there. So, like, I can't even really mark that as a mental mistake. The one in Thunder Valley was definitely me being too cautious and, like, overthinking it. That one was, that one's on me. The one in Minneapolis, I'm not really sure. But, like, it's just been a mix. Like, a lot of the Supercross ones are just some of the ones that just kind of leave me scratching my head, like, I don't even know, like, what just happened. So, even in the one at Millville, I switched my line, and that was a dumb mistake on my part. I came in way too fast, and it's just wrong. It's just judgment errors for me, I think, especially like the one at Thunder Valley and the one at Millville was just kind of just dumb things. And it's not really just being out front. It just so happens that usually when I crash, I am leading, which doesn't make it look very good. It makes it look like I'm a mental case. But at the end of the day, it's really not that. It's just me, I guess, pushing the envelope a little bit too much. Or in the Thunder Valley case, I took a different line, and I slowed down, which it made me come off the ground, which made me cross rut, and it was just and it made me look like an idiot, which I was. So, but from like this weekend, I was doing the same thing, just obviously didn't make any mistakes. So I just I've been working on being more comfortable. I think me being more comfortable on my bike and in the outdoors has allowed me to kind of be more confident towards the later parts of the race. And I think we're kind of seeing the results of that. This is the first time I would say since I've been on the 450 where I haven't touched my bike really at all.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the same shock, same fork pretty much all season. So I think I'm starting to see what I'm capable of when I am comfortable on the bike, and when I'm in a really good spot, and I think that's where the results are coming from. I've always had the speed. I've always had what it takes. I haven't had all the pieces, and now I feel like I'm definitely starting to get to that point, and it's been a really good season so far.
You know, it's crazy because in Supercross, you guys are doing shocks and clamps and forks, right? Like, everything's getting thrown at it. Yourself and Kenny were both not happy with the performance of the bike, and here we are outdoors, and like you said, you barely touched it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
it's crazy. I did that test last year after motocross ended, after I had COVID, and I came back, and I tested the shocks that I wanted to run for outdoors this year in a link setup, and that's pretty much, honestly, the biggest changes I've made since then. So, and then Supercross, like, my crash in Seattle, I was so spun out going into that race on what my bike was doing. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I was honestly on the track. I'm thinking about all these different things, and that's what leads to big crashes like that. Is when you're overthinking stuff and not comfortable. It wasn't the bike's fault that I crashed, but I'm not in the right state of mind to be like I'm thinking about all this stuff while I'm riding, and it's a recipe for disaster. So that's right now. I'm like I said, I'm having fun. One, because I'm really comfortable, and two, I'm just not really worried about the bike part. It's nice to actually go to the race and be focused on my riding and what I can do better. So that's been relieving this year.
5 points, 2 weeks off. Dylan was obviously the champion last year, and we talked to him at some point, and he said, the 2 weeks off last year, he didn't go on vacation, he didn't stop, he kept grinding, and he really thought that helped him out for the last 4 to make that push. Do you have plans to keep grinding as well, and just treat it like a race week? Maybe take the weekends off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going on vacation.
Right.
I'm taking these couple days today and tomorrow off completely, and then it's kind of just back to the normal training. This week, at least for riding wise, I'm gonna have more fun, not be so structured, which will be good. And I think I definitely need a little bit of rest, obviously, because we've had some pretty gnarly weekends back to back to back. But next week will be a build week, trying to get a little bit better and do more training action than I can do during the races, and then kind of tone it back for another race, like a normal race week going into Unadilla. So for me, I mean, I don't have much. I mean, there's a few things that I think I want to try with just a little bit different, just some clicks and stuff on my fork. But other than that, I mean, I just think working on myself, and I think I've been getting better and better my riding as I've been racing. So I think just keep doing my thing. But yeah, I definitely want to build a little bit next week. This week's more recovery, but as far as vacation, I'm kind of I'm just down here in Florida and doing my thing. So it's nice to obviously have a few weeks off, but it doesn't really change much. My mentality is still the same.
You be honest here. Look, if you had told me like, hey, Tomac won 8 motos in a row and Sexton got second, I'd be like, okay, I get that. You two guys are championship favorites. I would not have put money on the way you guys are destroying the field. I mean, Jason Anderson and Christian and Ryan Dungey are amazing riders, and you guys are absolutely crushing these dudes. Are you surprised at this, or do you feel like, hey, man, I'm hanging it out, and I know what I'm capable of? Because I didn't see you guys beating these dudes this badly the last few weeks. I just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't see that coming because, like, Kenny, Jason, Dunge, all those guys, I mean, Kirsten, they're all really good riders. And, like, you could put us all in a practice moto, and none of us are going to get beat by that bad.
No.
I don't know. I think that me and Eli racing as close as we've been the last couple of weeks just pushed us to even, I would even say, from Redbud to now, we are, I don't know how much better, but it feels like these last 4 motos that we've been by each other, the pace just keeps getting higher and higher. So I don't know how much more it can increase, but like even just for me as a rider, like this is making me way better. Like I mean, obviously Eli's at the end of his career, but I think for both of us, it's been just an elevation of like pace and the longevity of the motos. Like we haven't really gotten, like, we don't really fade at the end of the motos, which is obviously the goal, but our fastest laps are coming 2 laps to go, last lap. Like it's definitely a grind, those motos. So I just think us being together and pushing the pace that high is it's almost like a sprint every lap. Not actually a sprint, but we're going as fast as we can for 35 minutes. That's pretty much the bottom line. So I would just say just us being that close and like we've been by each other every moto. So it's just us not wanting to give the other guy an edge, and that's kind of the result, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's impressive.
Going back to what we were talking about, do you and your dad write your program, or does Tyler write all of that stuff and do all of your, your off the bike stuff and everything like that? I'm just curious because I mean, I think we can all agree your technique's pretty awesome, and how often you stand and stuff like that. And I just didn't know, like, do you guys come up with that, or does Tyler do it?
Oh, okay. So actually, Tyler, I love Tyler and everything, but I just actually ride at his track. So Peter Park is my off the bike trainer, and he's been Kenny's trainer, Chad Reed, all those guys. So him and I actually collab on like the riding side. It's pretty simple. I mean, I've been doing it not super long, but 5 years now, and I've kind of gotten a formula I think that works for me, and we adjust week to week. But him and I kind of come together on the riding like program part, and then my dad is my practice bike mechanic, and he is also my technique guy. So he's riding stuff on the pit board pretty much every lap on what I can do better, and he's been there since day one, and I can't tell you the hours I've spent on technique in the dark when I was on 85s, and just a lot of long days practicing that. And I think it's just stuck with me because once you have it, it's kind of, you're up with it. You have it forever. So it's the technique thing. I don't really work on it as far as like elbows and foot and all that stuff, but like it's like body position on the bike is one thing I've been focusing on. I used to get a little bit too far forward, just standing and stuff like that, kind of getting lazy, and now I'm forcing myself to get farther and farther back, just to, for me being a taller guy, my leverage, if I get too far forward, it's really dramatic, and also if you get too far back. So but that's one thing I've been working on, and one thing that in the sand has cost me, especially at Southwick in the past years. So that's one thing that I've been working on, just trying to stay right in the center of the bike, and if not center, a little bit farther back. So
yeah.
But as far as your question, it's just been my dad and Peter.
No, I was just curious because like your technique, your transition from sitting to standing is really flawless, and that's really hard, especially I feel like on a 450, to be able to get back to your feet so easy and get your legs straight when you're that tall, because that's a problem that I feel like I have when I transition. My knees get too far forward, and then I get put in this awkward position sometimes. And I was just curious, like, where you guys, worked on that so much. So tell Pops I'm going to come down and do some riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell your dad he's got a business going, riding school business.
Yeah, he's and for him, he was never like an A rider or anything. He was a vet rider. He didn't start racing until he was later in his life. But as far as he goes, he just watches. He's really good at studying other riders and taking that and making it. I mean, it makes it easier for me to understand, at least. And he's a drill sergeant on that stuff. Like, if I'm not doing it right, he's gonna definitely let me know. And I think as far as like the sitting to standing thing, I don't even at this point, it's kind of just second nature for me. But for me, is like I said, getting too far forward was one of my problems, and now I'm trying to stay more in the center, and that's something that isn't as easy. So obviously, it's always a work in progress. But during the week, I'm mostly focused on motos, but there is those days where I need to focus on technique as well.
Hey, Chase, going into this round, obviously 2-2 is great, unless the other guy's going 1-1 every time. Points are still close. But
Which was happening.
Yeah, was there any, like, I have to absolutely beat him in this moto? I felt like going into this race, you needed a win. Like, mentally, I felt like you just had to get one, because at some point, generally, an athlete's going to feel like they got broke a little bit. Did you feel any of that? Like, I have to beat him this weekend.
I mean, my goal was to win. And
sure.
I was coming off winning there last year, which I never was like a huge fan of Washougal, but I do like the dirt there. Like, especially when it's tacky in the morning. Like, they groomed the corner after the start for our first moto. Actually, both motos, and that corner had so much traction. Like, it was just a blast. There was a perfect rut in there, but as far as like the slick stuff, I wasn't really a fan of. So, like, coming in, obviously I wanted to win. I know Eli's good at Washougal, so I knew it was going to be tough. But for me, I was going to put my best self out there, which first moto I did. He was faster than me in the whoops, in a few spots in the track first moto early, and that's why he obviously got me. And then I was able to pick up on that and got back to the rear tire. And then we ended up falling over, which was honestly super, like, it was kind of awkward because it was so quiet right there. Yeah. And, like, him and I are, like, trying to get our bike started, but it was still super quiet. So it was kind of weird. and then his bike got started, and then obviously mine turned over, and we got going back into it, pretty much straight into a battle. So I was actually pretty happy with my first moto. I thought I rode good. I just wasn't fast enough at the beginning, and then second moto I got the whole shot, and I heard him behind me again. I'm like, okay, I got to go fast at the beginning because I can't let him get by me, because I knew once it comes down to like the later past 15 minutes, I was going to be fine. So if I could get them to that point, was kind of my goal. So, yeah, my mentality is to win every weekend, but it hasn't happened. So this weekend was really no different. I just had to go out there and do the best I could, which second moto was good enough. First moto was not. But, yeah, I didn't – 2-2 was getting old, because usually 2-2 is not a horrible weekend. But for me, it was like, man, Millville was tough. I was pretty bummed after that one, because first moto I felt like I was definitely the better rider, and then second moto was just another battle. So, yeah, my goal was to win, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're racing Eli, so it's definitely not easy.
We had Eli on the show last week, and we asked about the MXdN, and he was like, well, I'd like to talk to Chase about that, but yeah, that's kind of weird now. We're in this battle. So he's doesn't want to – sounds like he wants to talk to you about Motocross the Nations, but it's too weird right now.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wouldn't mind talking to him. I mean, I'm usually pretty good at separating racing and other stuff, so I would actually like to talk to him about it, because I'd like to know his opinion and stuff like that. I still don't know what the plan is with the third guy, so yeah, I'd actually like to talk to him about it.
I think it's coming down between Barsha and Craig. I think it'll be one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Cade thinks it should be Justin Cooper. Which I don't know, but Cade also said that Stu couldn't ride the whoops.
Dude, that's just leave it alone.
This year,
dude.
you did say that.
Leave it alone.
Also,
that was last year.
Also, Cade, you said that Millville wasn't as rough as Washougal.
Dude, Washougal.
I thought Washougal was actually really rough. I'm not even. I said that to somebody the other day. Yesterday. I'm like, dude, I thought Washougal was actually like way rougher than it's been in a long time. Which I don't think Millville wasn't that rough, to be honest.
Well,
so Cade might have a point there.
Okay, wow. Cade. All right, Cade, we'll give it to you.
It was nice talking to you, Chase.
Yeah. They threw new dirt. It'd been the wettest spring and whatever up there, so they threw a bunch of new dirt on, which was soft, and that probably got chunked up, and the base wasn't. It was softer, so it got rougher.
It was a different rough than Millville, but it was pretty, like, the bumps were super sharp and like steep, so it's almost more uncomfortable than Millville is.
They're so hard that you hit them and it's like harsh. Like when there's sand bumps, they kind of like take some of the impact when you hit them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These ones were like super close together, and you couldn't jump them because they're not far enough apart, and they're all like kind of scattered. And it's more like, I think it's harder to find a flow at like a Washougal, especially when it's super choppy. Like when I went out there and did the parade lap for the first moto, I'm like, man, this track is like pretty beat up, and then obviously you get riding and you kind of find a flow, but it wasn't easy for sure.
Yeah, it's funny though to watch you take a line and then and your bike's moving a little bit, and then Eli takes a line right behind you, and he is just bang, 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 and you guys are going the same speed, and Eli's.
It is crazy because him and I ride completely different, but it's pretty much the same result. So.
Yeah. All right, we got some phone calls for you before we let you go here. Chase Sexton brought to you by the folks at Renthal. Jim, you got a question about the whoops for Chase Sexton? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Thanks for taking my call. Mm-hmm. So looking at Washougal's whoops, I was kind of wondering how those compare to like Supercross whoops.
Yeah, they're definitely different. Washougal are more. They're just really spread apart. I don't know. It'd be interesting to ride them with Supercross suspension, because obviously we ride outdoor, and Supercross suspension is completely different. Supercross is way stiffer, so it'd actually be fun to go there and ride Supercross suspension through the whoops, because they're pretty far apart. So when you skim them with outdoor suspension, it's like you don't get the drive across them. It's more of like you're getting hung up and you're kind of just making a lot of noise. With Supercross stiffer suspension, you're going to drive across the top a lot better. So it'd actually be faster with Supercross suspension on. But for us, especially this weekend, it was faster to jump them, which is not usually normal in Supercross. So, they're definitely different. They're farther apart, a little bit flatter, not cupped like Supercross. But, they're just two different sets of whoops, obviously.
Cool. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the call, man.
Did you ever knock out the 444?
No, never did.
Oh man,
never did. Eli did it. I think that's when he caught me first moto.
Yep.
He was doing it, and I don't even know what I was doing, honestly. It was not pretty.
Only guys I saw was Eli and Anderson. The only guys that I saw. I was standing there all day, so they're the only guys.
I went quad in, but never quad.
All right, next up is Doug. Doug, what's your question for Chase Sexton?
Hi, Chase. Good ride this weekend, by the way.
Thank you.
So I've been going to Washougal for over 30 years in a row, and I always listen to Pulp, and I know a lot of pro riders aren't too keen on Washougal. I'm wondering what you think could be done to make it more of a favorite for pro riders on the circuit.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely. I wouldn't say it's my favorite track, but it's definitely up there. I think the dirt, especially in practice, like when that place has traction, I don't think there is any other place that has as good a traction as Washougal. Obviously, it goes away and you get to that hard base, which is, I think that's the hardest thing for us guys to read is the difference, because it all kind of looks pretty good, but it's pretty deceiving on when you have traction, when you don't. So, yeah, I love it, especially in practice. Like, you feel like you have, like, glue on your tires. So, I don't know. For me, I like it. It's hard-packed, and that's kind of what I grew up riding on was hard-pack and slicker tracks. So, I don't know. It's just different. Some people like sand, which has not really been my favorite. So, when I go to Washougal, I always enjoy it because it is hard-packed, and it's more of what I'm used to. So, I mean, I think it has the most character out of any track because we don't really race in the trees, and it's got a little bit of elevation, the shadows, and I think there's a few places where they could open it up and make it so it's like that switchback left, right is
that's really silly.
Line.
Yeah. I don't quite know.
Line.
I think they're trying to replicate the catcher's mitt from back in the day, and they kind of screwed it up a little bit. We did a live show at the track on Friday night, and I said, hey, can you guys cut these trees down? Like, the shadows suck over there. And I got booed. So,
really?
Nope.
Yeah, I was there, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't like that very much.
No, Doug. Then I had to blame it on weeds right away. But
sure.
Yeah, I think the trees are cool. I think that's something that gives the place character. Like the shadows, like Katie was saying, it's some people don't like them, but it's also part of racing that track. So I think just for me, I would just open that little left, right up a little bit, so there's a little bit more passing. But other than that, I like
totally
the track.
agree.
Cool. Thanks, Doug. Thanks for the call, man.
Could I say one thing, Steve?
Okay, go ahead.
So I've been there 30 years, Chase. The only other better race at Washougal ever was Carmichael Stewart. You and Eli were on it, man. You should be super proud of yourself.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen that race plenty of times, so I can agree.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty damn good. Thanks for the call,
guys.
man. Thank you. Last call for Chase Sexton here. Jason, what's going on? What's your question for Chase Sexton?
Hey, fellas. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Quick shout-out to Jamie for having me on the wrap-up show last week, too.
All right.
What's up, man?
Chase, when you're battling that close with Eli, are you worried about, like, still looking at his lines, or are you just trying to make a pass? I mean, obviously you try to learn lines, like, when you're maybe a couple seconds behind, but, like, when you're right on his rear wheel, like, what's your thought process at that point?
Yeah, it's been fun racing him because especially when you have two guys really close in speed, it really comes down to line choice. So I think it's been kind of back and forth on who has better lines. That's usually the guy that's going faster. And so first moto last weekend, and even at Millville when he passed me, I had to kind of adapt to his lines that I thought were better and then kind of mix that with some of my lines. And usually if you can do that correctly, you can kind of suck back up to him and get close. So, and then when you get close to him, you kind of have an idea on the track where you think you are faster. So what I try to do is I try and get as close as I possibly can throughout the rest of the track, and then when I get to that spot, it's kind of all or nothing. You kind of go for it and see if you can make a pass stick. So that's really what's in the back of my mind when I'm trying to pass somebody.
All right, thanks for the call for sure. All right, anything else for Chase Sexton, guys?
I got one more question.
Okay.
Just when you and Eli tipped over, like, that couldn't have been scripted any better that you guys, like, I don't know how your bike didn't fire when he fell back over.
I honestly I asked him afterwards. I'm like, why didn't you it looked like you could just get going. I didn't realize his bike wasn't firing. Yeah.
That was so odd that you guys, the position didn't change at all. It was
just
how
get up and
your heart
go.
rate had to be like 200.
Yeah, I think Steve just like thought I was waiting on him.
Right.
Okay, Eli, come on, get up, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't you step on him and just go?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
sorry I ran into the back of you. I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
No, I was telling Steve, I actually, so I did step on his rear tire and he couldn't get his bike up, which obviously I don't know what like the rule book is there, like if that's like frowned upon or not. I was just more like, I was trying to be not respectful, but I was just trying to be fair, and I got up. I got up first, so I'm like, okay, well, if I can just get my bike started, I can go. So I wasn't really worried about stepping on his bike, and then my bike wasn't starting, and then I was actually watching the replay. I didn't even realize he fell back over.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there just trying to get my bike to start. I'm like, oh my god, it's not starting. I almost thought about putting it in neutral. So then he gets up, his bike starts right away, and then literally as soon as his bike starts, mine turns over and starts.
Your
So
Honda
I'm
was
like,
just waiting.
well,
Yeah. The bike was just waiting.
It was literally like I was waiting for him. Okay, all right, let's go. And then I got back up, realized my bars were bent, which was it wasn't huge, but I hit him pretty hard actually, which is they ended up telling my rotor was bent a little bit too.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, it was my front brake was fine. It was just I only noticed the bars a little bit, but yeah, I was already committed to the rut and I couldn't really get out of it, and you saw the result of that.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, it's been impressive. It's been really, really cool. 11-2 for you last year at Unadilla. You talked about what happened the first moto. Kate took you out. But
Kate's fault.
Kate's fault. But 11-2 last year at Unadilla. Kenny was on another level, if I remember right. God, he was gone.
Yeah, he was fast.
And Eli has only won Unadilla once, I read. So, should be great. Should be a great battle again in 2 weeks, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Unadilla. That's rut. So actually, the rest of these tracks are all they're mostly clay based. So I'm really looking forward to these last four, and Unadilla is one of my favorite tracks. So I'm excited.
Yeah, awesome, man.
The number one will be back.
Yeah, Ferrandis should be back too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that too. It's been a little bit weird not having him there, and I'm interested to see where he's at.
Yeah,
we've only seen what he was doing last year, so. Should be interesting.
Awesome. Thanks for calling in, Chase. Thank you for the time. Congrats on the win, man. Impressive. Thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. See you later. That's Chase Sexton, everybody. Brought to you by Renthal, renthal.com. What are you laughing at?
Dude, I forgot about Unadilla last year. I was so mad because
he cleaned you out,
dude.
Yeah,
wrecked me.
Yeah,
I mean, just like I remember, it was coming down the big sky shot thing that left,
the right.
and then that right,
Yeah.
and I went inside and went to go inside again, and he railed the outside, and he jumped that single, and just annihilated me. And I got up, and I'm like, what the hell, dude?
What happened?
Like what's going on here?
At least he admitted it. Yeah,
dude, it was I was so mad
Right.
because I remember like I was so upset that I got in his way at Atlanta,
Right.
and I was like, is this payback for that dude? Like,
did he say anything to you after?
no, I tried to talk to him and he like rode by me. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah,
like I just cost you a lot of money. I wouldn't want to talk to
No,
you.
I meant at Unadilla. Did he come up at
no.
Unadilla and be like, hey,
No.
man, my bad?
No.
So that was the
I guess.